In this episode of Idea City,
God gave us the ability over the last several hundred years to finally have technology. And the reason it was withheld from us and not given to us until the end of the 6,000 years is because if we'd had it 2,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago, we wouldn't be here today. We would have destroyed ourselves. We have the capacity on this earth to destroy ourselves more than 40 times over with all the nuclear power that we have.
Idea City, the smartest people, the biggest ideas.
Now, your average fundamentalist might preach, about hell and damnation, but it takes a truly confident minister, a truly confident messenger of God to set a fixed date for the end of time. Ronald Weinland says we have, or at least 144,000 of us have, until May the 27th, 2012, to humble ourselves and repent. Ronald? Thank you.
I'd like to thank and congratulate Moses Neimer for this, the 10th anniversary of Idea City. I'd like to say in the beginning of this that some of the things I have to say are extremely controversial, and I in no means want to offend anyone. But the things I have to say sometimes are taken that way, and the message I have is not a pleasant one. It is toward the end, if you understand, but it isn't toward the beginning. And I do have great passion about what I'm going to be speaking about, indeed. And I hope that you will take away from this meeting things that you hear today, because I don't expect you to believe what you're going to be hearing at this point in time. But there are things going to take place very shortly now where, when they begin to take place, I hope that these things will come back into your mind, the things that you hear here today. There hasn't been a prophet come to the world for nearly 2,000 years now, but I am just that. I don't expect you to believe it, but I am an end-time prophet. And sent with a very strong message, one that I would even ask that at the end of this, you not applause, because it's not a thing to applaud what I'm going to be telling you. But we've seen over time the conflict of religion, people killing in the name of religion, the troubles and turmoils we've experienced on this earth, and we are now at a period of time at the end of 6,000 years that God has given to mankind to rule himself. It's a marvelous thing to understand. God's warning, God's witness, God's testimony to mankind is that we cannot govern ourselves. We are incapable of successfully governing ourselves. We have all kinds of ideas about the best way to govern throughout the world. Empires have risen and empires have fallen. Millions and millions have died needlessly, horribly, throughout time. I was thinking about some of the things we saw here earlier and marveling at how they tie in so well with what is being discussed right now. Because if we go back a little bit and think about the last 400 years, as we were told to do, with a simple little telescope looking out there in space, and we look at technology, why on earth hasn't man been able to develop and have things of technology until the last few hundred years? Why for nearly 6,000 years? And yes, man has only been here for 6,000 years, but the earth has been here for millions and millions and millions of years. Scientists believe that the galaxy began about 1,400 billion years ago. Doesn't say, we're not told. Probably did. They're able to reach out there 13 billion light years away. It doesn't conflict with the Bible. When people first come on the scene, they start reading through the book of Genesis, they don't understand. They think it's talking about the first creation of the earth, and so in religion, people get confused and they have this debate and science does with them as well, because they think that everything only started 6,000 years ago. And science knows that's wrong. It started a lot longer than that. And the earth was here for millions of years. Man doesn't understand, especially in religion anyway, that there was a great cataclysm. The earth that was already created here went into a stage of time that was kind of like a nuclear winter, where light couldn't reach the earth, and everything that was on the earth died. Lasted for millions of years before, when you come to Genesis, and God said, in a beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And then it says in the Hebrew, the earth became without form and void. Awesome. It was already here. And then it starts telling about what God did to remold and refashion the earth so that he could put life on it again to make us human beings. And we don't know what our purpose is and why we're on this earth. God has an incredible plan for mankind, and we're now at that time where he's going to reveal more of it to us. We have already started a period of time called the Great Tribulation, or a time of tribulation on the earth. It's already begun, especially in the United States, and people don't see it yet. It's a time referred to in both the Old and New Testament as a time, times, and a half a time. 1,260 days, 3.5 years. And it's marked by some horrific things that are going to take place, because billions are going to die. It's not a pleasant thing to think about. It's not a pleasant thing to think could even happen. But God is going to reveal and show to mankind once and for all that we cannot govern ourselves. And technology hasn't been here for a reason. Man was not able to bring it about. God gave technology. God gave us the ability over the last several hundred years to finally have technology. And the reason it was withheld from us and not given to us until the end of the 6,000 years is because if we'd had it 2,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago, we wouldn't be here today. We would have destroyed ourselves. We have the capacity on this earth to destroy ourselves more than 40 times over with all the nuclear power that we have.
When we come back,
It only takes once to destroy every living thing on earth. And that brings us to where we are right now. God knows the timing of everything. We cannot understand that mind.
get the latest Idealist news, presenter information, and watch streaming video at www.ideacityonline.com. Idea City, the smartest people, the biggest ideas.
It only takes once to destroy every living thing on earth. And that brings us to where we are right now. God knows the timing of everything. We cannot understand that mind, the mind. There wasn't a Big Bang. What laws regulate a Big Bang? Where did all that stuff come from? God Almighty, the one who says he's eternally existed, is the one who brought these things into being, and not only brought them into being as our creator, he is our sustainer. He sustains everything that's out there, and I can't comprehend that, and neither can you. And so we try to reason about it with our own human minds and our own capacity, with the only way we can, because we haven't believed God. Finally now, after 6,000 years, you know, in that creation week, there were 7 days. The first 6 days, God gave to man to go about his own routines, his own business, his own work, and so forth. But he said, the seventh day is mine, the Seventh Day Sabbath. It was a day set aside, commanded for time, for all time, that people would come before him and learn from him, be taught about why we're here on this earth and what he's doing and our relationship with him. That we haven't believed as a people on this earth. Religions that don't get along. Who's right? I don't care what religion you look at. Sunni and Shia, they don't get along. They don't believe the same. If you look at Judaism, the far right, the far left, many different ideas, especially even things about the one theme that runs throughout the Bible, the Messiah. And they have all kinds of ideas and beliefs about a Messiah. Traditional Christianity, thousands. No wonder people are so skeptical out here. Thousands of religions and ideas. Confusion. And so we are at a time, the end time. The next great thing to happen, it's going to take place. is in port cities, in some port cities of the United States, there will be nuclear weapons that go off. That will be the time for you to bring back into your memory, into your mind, the things that you're finding very hard to believe here today. That's called the second trumpet of the seventh seal. It's already been opened. The first trumpet is about a beginning demise of the United States and the economy of the United States. And you in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Western Europe, most of the world, frankly, in great ways are tied into the greenback, the dollar. And right now there are great hopes that we can keep printing, and we're going to get ourselves out of this and help the rest of the world get out of it as well. Not this time. This is the end. God is going to let it happen. He's not doing it to us. We're doing it to ourselves. And if God didn't intervene, when it's all said and done, we would destroy ourselves. That's the time we live in right now. And so we're seeing a decline in the way the world views the dollar. And that's a part of this prophecy that's taking place right now. It's going to continue to happen. And nothing anyone can do can stop it. In the stock market, one day it's going to crash, finally. Already told that a long time ago, and we've started to experience those things already for some time. But people don't believe. And so God's going to let us go through different phases here. And in the United States is prophesied to be the first great nation to fall because God made the United States who it is. As I heard the song here today, "Oh Canada," I had to look down to the floor because I believe with all my being, I know what's going to come to pass. And I know the outcome of Canada. And it hurts. It hurts. And I hope that some of the things that transpire from here today, maybe more in Canada, are going to be saved as a part of this process because it depends on people and how they respond to what God tells them. And so there's coming a time very rapidly here when we come up to a time that's referred to as the fifth trumpet. And Europe is prophesied for the seventh time to have a great revival called the Holy Roman Empire. The sixth was during the time of Mussolini and Hitler. The seventh is quickly coming. Same countries as a whole, a lot of same ones involved again. Germany. Oh, I wish I had more time. There's so much to tell you about who we are and why this is so important. I want to take you back a little bit. I was thinking about a time as I was traveling down between Seattle and Vancouver and crossing the border. An interesting sign there. And I don't remember the exact words, but I remember the gist of it. And it says, "We're brothers." We don't know how much we are brothers. Because God is going to use the same nation, Germany, who are the ancient Assyrians, to do again what they did before. There are going to be 10 nations that are prophesied to rise out of Europe who are going to be given great power once again, one last time on the earth. And they're going to do it because they're going to see the demise of the United States, a vacuum that takes place. And they're going to do it for different reasons than what Hitler did, because they feel that they have to do this in order to stop, if you will, a great breakdown in all of things taking place throughout Europe. And so they're prophesied to rise once again here and do the things that they're going to do and start World War III. They do it again. Because going back in time, people don't understand. When they think of Israel, they think of the Jewish people who are in Israel. And that's not all of Israel. In the Bible, that's not who Israel was. The first time you read in the Bible about Israel and the Jews, it says Israel was at war with the Jews. How is that possible? Because there were 10 nations in the north who were known as Israel, and Judah was in the south. And because of their disobedience to God, Israel was taken captive by the Assyrians in the 700s BC. They were taken up into Europe, and they lost their identity. They were never known as Israel again. God said that punishment was up on them because they changed the holy days to holidays. They changed the Sabbath to a worship on the day of Baal, the sun god, Sunday. Sounds familiar? And so they lost their identity. They were taken up into Europe. And The way the Assyrians did it, they brought another people then into that area of Israel called the Samaritans, Samaria. And Judah, a little over 200 years later, was taken captive, but they were able to keep their identity.
When we come back,
The United States is the tribe of Manasseh. Great Britain and her commonwealth of nations that God said he would bless at the end time is Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and the UK.
great ideas are meant to be shared. Join the discussion on Facebook. Idea City, the smartest people, the biggest ideas.
And the Jewish people have always been known as the Jewish people because they polluted the Sabbath and they polluted the holy days, but they kept them. And so God said they wouldn't lose their identity. So they had to go into captivity for 70 years, and God brought them back. The thing that people don't understand is that those people, Israel, that went into Europe, they migrated to places like Great Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the United States. The United States is the tribe of Manasseh. Great Britain and her commonwealth of nations that God said he would bless at the end time is Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and the UK. We are brothers. That's why when you read things in prophecy, it tells exactly what's going to happen and who it's going to happen to. And we are the first to fall. The United States, Canada, Western Europe, because those same tribes are throughout Switzerland, France. France is Reuben. All the way up through Belgium, the Netherlands, into Denmark, Norway, Sweden. Humorous to some. It's true. You don't know who you are as far as the peoples. And so God is telling what's going to happen at this end time. What happens after that? After a third world war begins, China and Russia and the Far East, it says they have a year and a month and a day that they prepare to confront them. And they begin to take their pieces in the world, in South America and Africa and other places. Just like they're doing today with the dollar. They're getting rid of the dollar as fast as they can. They're buying commodities throughout the world quickly because they know what's happening. And they engage Europe. And it says that they are going to destroy a third of all human life, all life on the earth. And that brings us up to the time of Armageddon, a few months later down the road. There is so much they've already done as far as nuclear war is concerned, as far as a confrontation in different parts of the world is concerned, and so many people have been destroyed, that at this point in time, what takes place at the very end is that God knows exactly the timing that's going to take. And those nations, rather than engaging in more nuclear war, because if they do, they know a great truth. We will annihilate ourselves. And God lets us come right to the brink on the very day that's called Armageddon to destroy ourselves. He intervenes on that last day because they come together in an area called Megiddo to do battle, to do war, head to head, not with nuclear weapons. And that's why all those millions and millions of people are gathered there together at that particular time, and the time that's called Armageddon. But it's on that day that God intervenes. Thank God. And he destroys all the armies that are there from Europe, all the armies from Asia, and so forth, and also their governments and their countries. He said he's going to destroy those who are destroying the earth. And then finally, the good news. The one who is called Messiah. The one who is called the Christ. The one who came 2,000 years ago as a lamb to die as a Passover for everyone, so our sins can be forgiven, is the one who comes back this time, it says, as a lion, not as a lamb, and he takes control. And he is the one in charge, the head of that great army that destroys all those that have come together in Megiddo. Time is up.
Seems an appropriate way to end your message.
Okay.
Time is up. Thanks very much, Ronald.
Yeah, facing towards us.
Okay.
I'll line you up there.
People talk about Antichrist. They don't understand fully what that means. They confuse that with some things that are said about a great false prophet at the end time.
Yes.
Because there are going to be two primary voices that are going to be saying that this is from God. One's going to be mine, and one's going to be from another individual who's going to be talking about some things that he says are going to be taking place at the end time.
And that would be the false prophet.
That would be the false prophet.
Any idea on who that could be?
Yes.
Yeah? Can you tell us?
It's Pope.
The Pope?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. There are 1.2 billion Catholics in the world, and I understand they believe what he says, and that's going to have a tremendous sway here at the end, and a lot of the Protestant churches are going to listen to some of that as well as time goes along here.
Gotcha. So in essence, if you're God's prophet and he's the false prophet, you're saying that
He's going to be the same
becomes
thing.
evil.
He's going to be saying same thing about me. So
Yeah.
as time goes on, the whole process is about one of being humbled, and when people have their hopes back up and those are dashed again, but this time for good, it is a process that is a positive thing, not a negative thing. When people will start to be humbled and start to look for answers and help from someplace else.